Konnichiwa. Today, we're going to talk about the Japanese system of directional words which use ko, so, do. This is commonly called the ko, so, do system, and initially it simply marks physical locations, but it then expands out to more subtle and metaphorical uses. This is common because all languages use physical metaphors to express abstract concepts, and fortunately, these means of expression are often similar across languages because the conceptual world maps to the physical world in certain quite predictable ways. So let's take the most basic meaning and use of ko, so, do, and that is actual physical locations. The most basic location use is koko, shoko, desoko, doko. Koko means here. If you know the Japanese word kokoro, heart, it's here, right where I am, right where my heart is. That's not the etymology of the word, but it's a mnemonic. Soko means there. Now, often koko means the speaker's place, and soko means the place of the listener. Soko means over there, and it often means distant from both the speaker and the listener. So the words mean over there, somewhat in the distance, so it's a bit far away, you have to shout to be heard over there. Doko means where, so that's a question word. So the ko words mean here, possibly near to me. The so words mean there, often near to you. The words mean over there, and the do words form a question. So in anime or manga, you'll often see someone saying, Koko wa doko? Where is this? Literally, speaking of this place, where is it? And that seems to be the most usual way for a Japanese person to ask that question, finding herself suddenly in an unknown location. The English way of asking it is more likely to be, where am I? But the Japanese way is, where is this place? Koko wa doko? As for this place, where? Now, that's quite simple, I think. And now we're going to look at something that does occasionally confuse people, and that's because when we come to the le and the no group, in English we express both with the same word, but we do have the distinction, so let's look at those. The re group is kore, sore, kare, dore. And the thing here is that the re means a thing. Ko means a place, location, and it can actually be written with the kanji for tokoro, phrase. Re is related to aru, if one of these things that's related to the fundamental aru, the mother of verbs, and aru means to be. This re means a being. When we say a being, in English we usually mean a sentient being, an animal or a person or something, but this means any kind of a being, anything that exists. So, kore means this thing, this being. Sore means that thing, that being. Are means that thing over there, that being over there. And dore means which being, what being. Now, what these can get confused with is the no group. Sono, sono, tano, dono. Now, re means a being, it refers to a thing. No, as we know, is used to make adjectivals or descriptors. So if we say Sakura no desu, we're saying Sakura's dress. If we say Densetsu no senshi, we're saying legendary warrior, warrior that belongs to the class of legend. Now this is the same no that we see in kono, sono, tano, dono. So if we take a very basic textbook phrase like kore wa pen da, we're saying this as being is a pen. But if we say kono pen wa takai, this pen is red. Ko no pen. The here pen, the pen that belongs to the class of things that are here. Sore wa pen da, that thing over there, or the thing you're holding, is a pen. Sono pen wa akai, that pen, the pen that belongs to the class of things over there, is red. Now in English we can say this or this pen, and there's no distinction between the words. We're using this in both cases. So once we've got used to how they work, I think this is a very straightforward term. Now the next verb is klange, sonne, anne, danne. Now in this case, we are using na. And na, as we know, is the form of the copula that turns an adjectival noun into an adjective that you can place before something else. And this is exactly what's happening here. So, kvanna means like this kind of. Sonna means that kind of. Anna means that kind of over there, and then further away kind of. And I'm not going to go into the details of it, but whether we use sonna or anna is going to depend on sometimes the literal position of something, but very often on how far these things are from what we're talking about, from the present circumstance, from something we associate with ourselves. So we could say, konna食べ物が好きです. I like food like this. そんなことが白い. That kind of things aren't trained. And in fact, you'll often find in anime or manga that someone just says, sonna. And when it's said in that kind of a complaining or accusing kind of way, it's short for saying that kind of thing. You're saying that kind of thing, and it would mean something like that kind of thing is unkind, that kind of thing is mean, that kind of thing is something I don't like. Sonna, that you said such a thing. So sonna is essentially a comparing adjectival, describing what something is like by comparing it to something else that we're referring to, something that's here, something that's over there, or something that's way over there, either in physical space or conceptually. Donna is asking what kind of a thing something is. Literally, what would we compare it to? Now, when we use ko, so, a, do on their own and lengthen them with er, koi, in the case of a with an extra fa, then we become ko, so, da, do. Then we are talking about the way something is or happens. So when we say so desu ne, we're saying, that's right, isn't it? So what we're really saying is so desu, it is like that. If we say so seru, we mean do like that. If we say ko seru, we mean do like this. Do in that way, do in this way. If we say do seru, we say do like how. And we often say do seruba I. Now, seruba is the conditional form of seru. Saying do seruba I means how if I do, that'll be good. Now we often find these combined with you, meaning say, is another example of the wider application of the concept of quotation than Japanese, which we discussed recently. And this is often used in relation to things that are not physical, concrete things. In other words, the kind of things which we call koto rather than mono. And we're going to hear an awful lot. So you koto, go you koto, and do you koto. We also hear are you koto. It's less commonly used than the others, but it is used. So what do we mean? We say so you koto, the thing of that kind. Ko you koto, the thing of this kind. Do you koto, what kind of a thing? Why do we mean what kind of a thing? This kind of a thing, that kind of a thing, what kind of a thing? What we're actually saying is how said thing. how said circumstance, how said condition. In other words, in what way do we describe this condition? What kind of a description does this circumstance or condition have? And we often hear as a kind of exclamation, "Do you goto?" And that means, what's going on here? What is this? What description of thing is this that's happening? And it can also mean, what are you talking about? What are you getting at? What are you saying here? Do you goto? And the thing to understand here is that the you there is not referring to the fact that the person has just said it. Do you goto? Meaning, what do you mean? What are you driving at? What are you talking about here? The you does not refer to the fact that you're saying it. The you refers to the description of the thing. So, do you goto is, in this case, short for do you goto. What do you, how described thing are you saying? So, receiving ko, so do system works both in terms of literal location and in terms of metaphorical location. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments below. If you have any comments to make, please make them there too, and I will answer as always. I'd like to thank my Gold Kokeshi patrons who make these videos possible, and all my patrons and supporters on Patreon and everywhere. And I'd like to thank you for attending this lesson. これからもよろしくお願いします. Class dismissed.